Bienvenidos a la novena clase de este curso de inglés intermedio completamente gratis. I upload a new video every Monday and Thursday, so make sure you subscribe to my channel. And don't forget, you can also join the Facebook group to download all of my resources, including the presentation for this class. Today we're going to study the conditionals in English. The zero conditional, the first conditional, the second conditional, and the third conditional. Let's begin. So today we are going to study 4 different types of conditionals. Conditionals are normally sentences where you see if, right? If, si. Si haces algo, algo pasa. Si tuvieras algo, harías algo, and so on and so forth. So first of all, let's have a look and see what I mean. ¿A qué me refiero, right? Here are 4 examples of the 4 conditionals. The zero conditional, the 1, the 2, and the 3. The zero conditional, the first, the second, and third conditionals. Here's the example for zero. If you exercise and eat well, you lose weight, right? Basically, this is a fact. If you do something, something happens. This is very easy. It's present tense, present tense. If you do this, then this happens. The first conditional, if I have time, I will call you. So it depends on a situation. I will do something else. Okay, so it's future depends. If I can, I will. Si puedo, lo haré. The second conditional, if he had kids, si tuviera hijos, he wouldn't have any money. No tendría dinero. This is unreal. We're talking about our imagination. Okay, it's imaginary situation. Si tuviera hijos, en realidad no tiene. Pero si tuviera, no tendría dinero. Another example, if I could, si pudiera, pero la realidad es que no puedo, pero si pudiera, lo haría. Okay, so this is an unreal present situation. ¿Qué haría si algo de mi presente fuera diferente? No lo es, pero si fuera. And the third conditional, if we had known you were busy, we wouldn't have come. De haber sabido, o si hubiéramos sabido that you were busy, no habríamos venido. We wouldn't have come. This is an unreal situation, but now we're talking about an unreal situation in the past. Si hubiéramos sabido, la realidad es que no sabíamos, pero si hubiéramos sabido en el pasado, no habríamos venido. We wouldn't have come. So this is an unreal situation in the past. Here's another example. If I had tried harder, si hubiera intentado más, la realidad es que no intenté mucho, I would have passed. Habría pasado el examen. En realidad no lo pasé. So this is unreal, imaginary situation. So you can see all 4 of these conditionals are conditionals because they are conditions of si haces algo, algo pasa. Si tengo tiempo, haré algo. Si tuviera algo, haría algo. Y si hubiera sabido algo, habría hecho algo diferente. These are all with si, right? If, which means it's a condition, a conditional. So these are very common grammatical structures in English, and it's important to understand every single one. So first of all, let's look at zero conditional. This is the really, really easy one. If you exercise and eat well, you lose weight. If plus present, and the consequence is present. It's easy, right? Or I could just change the order, change the structure. It's the same sentence. You lose weight if you exercise and eat well. Okay? I can say, if you exercise and eat well, you lose weight. Or you lose weight if you exercise and eat well. They're both acceptable. They're both perfect. Here are some more examples, and I want you to match the 2. So for example, if you don't eat vegetables, you don't get strong. So take a minute, stop the video, and do the activity to match the 2 halves of the zero conditional sentences. Okay, here are the answers. 3, 2, 1. If you live in the city, we can offer same-day delivery, for example. If you play with a Ouija board, bad things happen. If people don't drink water, they die. If you mix hydrogen and oxygen, you get water. And if babies are hungry, they cry. Okay, pretty simple. Just do a quick practice. If you want to, you can practice putting them in the other order. So flip them round. Bad things happen if you play with a Ouija board. We can offer same-day delivery if you live in the city. But in the examples where it says, for example, they cry, if you start the sentence with they die or they cry, it sounds a bit strange. They cry if babies are hungry. No, you'd want to change that a little bit and say something like, babies cry if they are hungry. So I know what you're talking about, okay? So you can practice putting them in the other order. This is really simple grammar, so let's go straight to an exercise and move on to something more complicated. Go to point number 1 in the description to do the activity. So this is the activity for the zero conditional, okay? So make the zero conditional. If I wake up and then late, I be late for work. It's zero conditional, so it's present and present. If I wake up late, I am late for work. Let's check it. Okay, perfect. If my husband cooks, because it's he cooks, he burns the food. Check it. Perfect. Okay, so the zero conditional is pretty easy. It's just present and present, present and present. Just be careful. Julie is a she, so if Julie not wear, okay, if Julie doesn't wear a hat, she gets sunstroke. Let's check it. Perfect. Finish the rest of the activity and I will see you in a moment. I hope that went well. Let's continue. So zero conditional is pretty simple. Let's move on to something a little bit more interesting, which is first conditional. The first conditional, if I have time, I'll call you. So this is something that depends, the future, and it depends. It's a realistic possibility, okay? So it's something which realistically might happen, quizás pase, in the future, but it depends on something else, right? Depende, si tengo tiempo, te marcaré. If I have time, I'll call you. So we can say if, and the present, if I have, future will, I will. Or we can use a different structure, the same information, future will, and then if, and then present. For example, if it rains, I won't go to the park. That's this structure, right? If it rains, I won't go to the park. If I study today, if I study, I will go to the party. If I have enough money, I will buy some shoes. If I have enough money, I will buy some shoes. She will be late if the train is delayed. So that's a different structure. She will be late if the train is delayed. She will miss the bus if she doesn't leave soon. Right? She will miss the bus if she doesn't leave soon. And finally, if I see her, I will tell her, right? If I see her, I will tell her. Okay, let's go to an exercise. Go to point number 2 in the description to do the activity. So this is the page for the activity. Again, I really recommend this teacher, and this page is fantastic for activities and exercises. So this is the first conditional, right? Make the first conditional. If and present, and then will and a verb, right? So if I go out tonight, I will go to the cinema. Let's check it. Perfect. Let's see if we can use a contraction. I'll go. Is that going to work? Also perfect. If I go out to the cinema, if I go out tonight, I'll go to the cinema. If you get back late, I'll be angry. Let's try that. Let's check it. Perfect. All of these so far, if. Okay, so now number 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, so these examples, the order has switched. Okay, so now from 1 to 10, we start with if, and then from 11 to 20, if is in the middle of the sentence, okay? So the will is going to be at the beginning. Let's do number 11. I will, so let's do the contraction. I'll come early if you want. I'll come early if you want. Let's check this one. Perfect. Finish the activity and I'll see you in a moment. I hope that went well. Let's continue. So, zero conditional was super easy. First conditional was pretty easy too, right? A will and present tense. Now, the more famous conditional is the second conditional. Okay, this is a little bit more interesting because now we're talking about imaginary situations, that si yo fuera, si tuviera, si pudiera, que haría, que compraría. It's more interesting and it's sexier grammar, right? So, the original example, if he had kids, he wouldn't have any money. Si tuviera hijos, no tendré dinero. It's unreal, it's not real, okay? Si tuviera hijos, en realidad no tiene. Pero si tuviera, no tendría dinero. So if I could, in reality I can't. Si pudiera, en realidad no puedo. Lo haría. Si pudiera, lo haría. Pero no puedo. Okay, so this is the unreal consequence. Okay, so these are things that are not real and they're unreal consequences. So we can again use two different structures. If plus the past, would plus the verb. Or would plus the verb, if plus the past. So if he had kids, he wouldn't have money. This is this example here. Or I can change it, the different structure. He wouldn't have money if he had kids, okay? Examples like Beyonce, she says, if I were a boy, I would roll out of bed in the morning. Como que saldría de la cama muy casual. I would salir de la cama rodando. So if I were a boy, in reality, Beyonce is a girl, right? So people actually also say if I was, but if you look at that, I were, that's special for conditionals. Normally, I is was, right? But if I were, si yo fuera. I wouldn't do that if I were you. No haría eso si yo fuera tú. En realidad no soy tú, right? So we're talking about unreal situations. So again, so note in both of these examples, were, not was, is correct, okay? So when you're talking about writing English, you would say, si yo fuera, if I were, okay? If I were you. I know that I goes with was in simple past, but in this case, in conditionals, we use were. But most people say was, to be honest. So let's have a look at some more examples. Here's a reality, and I want you to change it to the unreal. So these are all present reality. So you're going to change it to unreal past. And if it's affirmative, you change to negative. If it's negative, you change to affirmative. So let's look at this. So let's look at this example. I am not an animal, so that's negative. No soy animal, okay? Pero si yo fuera, if I were an animal, I would be, yo sería, I would be a kangaroo. The reality, I don't have $1 million, no tengo. Pero si tuviera, if I had $1 million, I would buy a house. Okay, so just take 2 seconds to do the last three. Stop the video. I'm going to tell you the answers, okay? 3, 2, 1. My father is very relaxed. If my father weren't very relaxed, again, many people say wasn't is fine. It's really not a problem. If my father weren't very relaxed, he would have heart problems. Si no fuera muy relajado, tendría problemas de corazón. The reality, I speak Spanish as my first language. If I didn't speak Spanish as my first language, si no hablara español como lengua nativa, lengua materna, no entendería banda. I wouldn't understand banda. I can't turn back time. No puedo regresar al tiempo. Si pudiera. right? If I could turn back time, this is a song, right? By Aqua, which is actually a pretty good song. Si pudiera regresar al tiempo, me quedaría la noche. I would stay for the night. If you study English with a friend, si están estudiando en pares o grupos, aquí les dejo una manera de armar preguntas y respuestas. Si pudieras, if you could, and a verb. And these are those indefinite pronouns again, right? Relative pronoun, who, what, where, would you, and then the verb again. So for example, if you could have dinner with anyone, if you could have dinner with anyone, comma, who would you have dinner with? Who would you repeat the word, have dinner with, right? If you could buy anything, what would you buy? If you could kiss someone famous, who would you kiss? Okay? It's good for practicing. And then the answer would be, if I could kiss someone famous, I would kiss Ana de Armas. When we're talking about the second conditional, lo de si fuera, si pudiera, estamos hablando también de deseos, ¿no? So wish is a verb in English, which is very important. It basically acts in the same way as an unreal second conditional. It's for unreal situations in the present. ¿Cómo decir ojalá tuviera en lugar de solo si tuviera? Ojalá tuviera in English would be I wish. I wish I had $1 million. Ojalá tuviera $1 million. In reality, I don't have $1 million right now. Okay? So we can use the second conditional like if I had $1 million. Or we can say I wish I had, ojalá tuviera. With if I had $1 million, you need to use the would clause, right? Si van a decir si tuviera $1 millón, tienes que decir qué harías, ¿no? Si tuviera $1 millón, haría esto o haría otro. Si solo dices ojalá tuviera $1 millón, no tienes que agregarle nada más, no tienes que ser más específico. Depende de lo que quieres expresar. Si quieres hablar de tus planes, de lo que harías en una situación no real, si tuvieras dinero, pues utilizas if I had $1 million, I would. Pero si nada más quieres decir ojalá tuviera dinero, I wish I had money. Okay? So with wish, you don't need to include a would clause and you don't need to include extra information. Let's do a quick exercise on wishes, okay? Go to point number 3 in the description to do the activity. So again, we're at the same page with this teacher. So here we're talking about wishes. I wish things were different. Ojalá las cosas fueran diferentes. Make sentences using wish and the past simple about the things I don't like. You can put in that if you want or leave it out. I don't have a car. So it's present and it's negative. So we're going to say, I wish I past an affirmative. I wish I had a car. Let's check it. Perfect. I can't play the piano. It's negative, it's can. So we're going to say, I wish I, affirmative, could. I wish I could play the piano. Let's check it. Awesome. I am at work. I am. So that's going to be past and negative. I wish I wasn't. Let's try wasn't. Finish the activity and I'll see you in a moment. I hope that went well. Let's continue. So now we are moving from the second conditional to the third. So this is getting even more complicated, okay? This one is tricky. So the example we had at the beginning was, si hubiéramos sabido, then we wouldn't have come. No habríamos venido. So this is the unreal situation, but now we're talking about something that's not true in the past. A situation that did not happen. Algo que no pasó. Y su resultado imaginario, ¿no? So a situation that didn't happen and the imaginary result. De haber sabido, la realidad es que no sabíamos, pero de haber sabido, o si hubiéramos sabido, entonces el resultado habría sido diferente. The result would have been different. So we have if and the past perfect. We have would, have, and the past participle. If we had left earlier, si hubiéramos salido antes, pero en inglés decíamos, si hubiéramos salido antes, if we had left earlier, we wouldn't have missed the train. No habríamos perdido el tren. La realidad es que sí salimos tarde y sí perdimos el tren, ¿no? Estamos hablando de algo que no es real, right? We're talking about something that's not real in the past. If I hadn't eaten that fish, si no hubiera comido ese pescado, no habría estado mal de la panza. If I hadn't eaten that fish, I wouldn't have been sick. La realidad es que sí comí el pescado y sí estaba mal de la panza. Pero si no lo hubiera comido, no habría estado mal. Okay? Again, we can reorganize these sentences in a different way. If we want to put this section first, that's also perfect. We wouldn't have missed the train if we had left earlier. I wouldn't have been sick if I hadn't eaten that fish. So now I'm going to ask you to do the same activity that we did with the second conditional here with the third conditional. So we have past realities, and you have to change them. So, for example, I went out late, salí tarde y me asaltaron, and I got mugged. If I hadn't gone out late, I wouldn't have gotten mugged, okay? Si no hubiera salido tan tarde, no me habrían asaltado. We got drunk and I texted my ex. Nos emborrachamos y le mandé mensaje a mi ex. Si no nos hubiéramos emborrachado, if we hadn't gotten drunk, no le habría mandado mensaje a mi ex. Okay? So here you have 3 more examples and I want you to try and do them. So stop the video and try to do the activities. Okay? Here are the answers. 3, 2, 1. The football team, they played too defensive. Jugaron demasiado defensivo y perdieron el partido. They played too defensive. If they hadn't played so defensive, they wouldn't have lost the game. Okay, si no hubieran jugado de esa manera, no habrían perdido. Sarah forgot her purse, so she didn't catch the bus. If Sarah hadn't forgotten her purse, she would have caught the bus. And finally, the kids didn't use sunscreen, so they got sunburn. If the kids had used sunscreen, they wouldn't have gotten sunburn. Okay? Let's do an exercise. Go to point number 4 in the description to do the activity. So again, here we are in my favorite page. And here is the activity for third conditional. Okay? So make the third conditional. Remember, it's if and the past perfect, and then would have past participle. So here it says the verb is not be. So if you hadn't been late, we wouldn't have missed the bus. Okay, let's check it. Awesome. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 start with the if. And then 11, the if is in the center, right? So for example, he be happier if he stayed home. So he would have been happier if he had stayed at home. So the order is flipped here, right? Okay, so let's check it. Perfect. Finish the activity and I'll see you in a moment. I hope that went well. Let's continue. I wanted to mention this movie, okay? I'm putting a link in the description to a particular scene from this movie. Now, the scene from this movie, which is The Curious Case of Benjamin Button from 2008, is basically a story about this girl, Daisy, and she was involved in a traffic accident where she was crossing the street and a taxi hit her, okay? So basically, the scene in the movie talks about all the various things that happened in order for Daisy, this character, to be crossing the street when the taxi came by. Okay? La escena en la película habla de todas las cosas que pasaron para que Daisy estuviera cruzando la calle cuando pasó ese taxi. Okay? El taxi que se chocó con ella. Y Benjamin narra de, y si solo una cosa hubiera pasado de una forma diferente. And then he gives a big, big list of all of the things that could have been different in third conditional. If that shoelace hadn't broken, todas las cosas que le detuvieron a ella o apuraron al taxista, todas las cosas que tuvieron que pasar para que se chocaran en ese momento, en esa calle, ¿no? So, if her shoelace hadn't broken, las tiritas de los zapatos, no me acuerdo cómo se llaman, si las tiritas no se hubieran roto, or that delivery truck had moved, o ese camión de entrega se había movido un poquito antes, moments earlier, or that package had been wrapped and ready, o si esa caja de paquetería hubiera estado envuelto y listo. So in the story there's a package that delayed the taxi driver indirectly, okay? En la historia hay algo de una paquetería que le detiene un poco al taxista y por eso llega exactamente al punto cuando está cruzando la calle Daisy, ¿no? Si hubiera estado envuelto correctamente porque la niña no hubiera roto con el novio o ese hombre hubiera puesto su alarma y se hubiera levantado poco antes o el taxista no hubiera parado para una taza de café o esa mujer hubiera recordado su abrigo. Si cualquier cosa de estas hubiera pasado de una forma diferente, Daisy y su amiga habrían cruzado la calle sin problema y el taxista habría pasado. Okay? It's complicated English, but it's really, really fascinating. Es una escena fascinante porque primero ves todas las cosas que tuvieron que pasar para que se chocara Daisy y el taxista. Y luego él está describiendo si solo una cosa hubiera pasado de una forma diferente, entonces ella, Daisy, habría cruzado la calle sin problema. Y todo es third conditional. Entonces, in the description, you can find the link to the movie scene with subtitles in English, where he goes through all of these possibilities. And it's really, really interesting. So that's everything with the conditionals, the 0, the first, the second, and third conditionals. But before we finish the class, I want to look at one more thing. So there is a little bit of confusion with the apostrophe D. So remember the past perfect? Ya habías visto la película? You'd seen the movie already? We use that apostrophe D for had. Okay? When we're talking about would in the conditionals, we also use apostrophe D. So she would buy a house. Si tuviera mucho dinero, compraría una casa. She'd buy a house. So maybe people would be confused, right? Are we talking past perfect or are we talking in a conditional? But basically, we can tell the difference because of the next word, the verb. So if you say to me, you had seen, immediately I recognize this is past because there's a past participle. You had seen. If you say to me, she'd buy, I recognize buy is not past. Okay, I know the difference. We can understand the difference. But I know that for you, maybe it's confusing as a student. There's also some confusion with would. So if you remember in class number 3 or 4, we talked about solía. I think it's 3. Class number 3 of intermediate. Solía for actions can be used to or would. You remember? Yo solía ir al parque. I would go to the park with my friends. Cuando era joven, when I was younger. So that can be used for past repeated actions. I would play with the neighbors every day when I was young. Solía jugar con los vecinos todos los días cuando era joven. Well, it looks exactly the same in second conditional. Okay? Si tuviera tiempo, jugaría soccer todos los días. If I had time, I would play soccer every day. So they look, parecen exactly the same, right? But the context is everything, right? I know, because of the context, what you're talking about. I would play with the neighbors every day when I was young. I would play with the neighbors every day if I had time. Okay, so if you change these two things, I know exactly what you're talking about. Because if I had time is a conditional and when I was young is past. Okay, so the context is important. Let's look at a song with conditionals. So this is a famous song by Madonna. It's called Frozen and it's from 1998. There is one first conditional and one second conditional somewhere in here. Okay, so I want you to try and find the first conditional and the second conditional. Okay, here are the answers. 3, 2, 1. If I could melt your heart, si yo pudiera derretir tu corazón, we would never be apart. Nunca estaríamos separados. So that's a second conditional, right? A first conditional, if I lose you, my heart will be broken. If I lose you, my heart will be broken. Remember, the first conditional is present with if and then will as a consequence. This is realistic, right? If I lose you, my heart will be broken. Okay, so this song, okay, so the translation, you only see what your eyes want to see. Solo ves lo que tus ojos quieren ver. How can life be what you want it to be? ¿Cómo puede ser la vida lo que tú quieres que sea? You are frozen, estás congelado, when your heart's not open, cuando tu corazón no está abierto. You are so consumed with how much you get. Estás tan consumido, tan preocupado con cuánto puedes conseguir. You waste your time with hate and regret. Malgastas tu tiempo con odio y arrepentimiento. You are broken, estás roto, when your heart's not open, cuando tu corazón no está abierto. Again. Si yo pudiera derretir tu corazón, nunca estaríamos separados. Give yourself to me. Entrégate a mí. You hold the key. Tú tienes la llave. Próximo verso. Now there is no point in placing the blame. No tiene punto intentar culpar a alguien. And you should know I suffer the same. Y deberías saber que yo también sufro lo mismo. Si yo te pierdo, mi corazón estará roto. If I lose you, my heart will be broken. I really, really like this song. I think this song is cool. Sometimes Madonna makes good music and sometimes she makes bad music, but I think this song is very cool. There are lots of songs with conditionals and wishes. Actually, wish you were here. Ojalá estuvieras acá. La realidad es que no estás aquí, pero ojalá estuvieras. There's a song by Pink Floyd, which is a fantastic song. I think it's possibly in my top 3 or 4 favorite songs of all time. Pink Floyd, Wish You Were Here. But also there are songs by Incubus, by Guns N' Roses, by Avril Lavigne, which are also called Wish You Were Here. They have the same name. But yeah, Pink Floyd's song is fantastic. It's just not fantastic for the grammar because it's only one example, okay? But fantastic song. Okay, so it's class 9. This is class 9. So this is basically the end of intermediate. So these are the topics that we have studied during intermediate level. So in the first class, we studied tag questions. You like tacos, don't you? You went on vacation, didn't you? So those are tag questions. And we looked at reflexive pronouns. Myself, yourself, himself, herself. In class 2, we looked at present perfect continuous. I have been living in Seattle for 10 years. We also started to look at stative and dynamic verbs, the difference between a state and a dynamic verb. In class 3, we studied the past continuous. Okay, so I was walking in the park when I broke my leg. Okay, and we also studied used to and would for solía. And again, we studied stative and dynamic verbs because it's important for used to and would. In class 4, we looked at past perfect. Llegué a la casa, pero ya te habías ido, right? I arrived home, but you had already gone. Past perfect, had gone, had been, had seen. Class 5, we did a quick refresh on the difference between some, any, and no. And then we looked at indefinite pronouns, which is based on something, anything, nothing, right? Someone, anyone, no one. Somewhere, anywhere, nowhere, okay? Indefinite pronouns. Class 6, we looked at phrasal verbs like get up, look after, look up to, turn on, turn off. The verbs which are verbos compuestos, right? So verbs that are made of 2 or 3 words. And we looked at the difference between transitive and intransitive. And then we looked at transitive separable and transitive non-separable, okay? Class 7, we looked at relative clauses and relative pronouns. So for example, I have a friend called Mario who is Italian, right? And also we looked at verbs with 2 objects. So for example, you buy a present for me, or you buy me a present, right? Class 8, we looked at passive voice, the difference between active voice and the passive voice, and how it's very common in, for example, newspapers and periódicos. It's very common to say, for example, JFK was killed, and not Lee Harvey Oswald killed JFK. Well, no, because JFK is more important, right? JFK was killed in 1963. Class 9, today, this class, we looked at conditionals. The 0, the first, the second, and the third conditionals. All the conditionals. Okay? And next, there will be a live class. So make sure you join the Facebook group so you can discover when the live class is happening. All right? And next week, we start with pre-avanzado, okay? The pre-advanced level. Fantastic. Congratulations for finishing intermedio, for finishing the intermediate level. As always, there is a test in the description which you can take to check your understanding of the conditionals of today's topic. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel to receive notifications of my classes and also when I'm going live on YouTube. And join the Facebook group so you can download this presentation and all of my other resources and presentations. Thank you for studying English with me, and I will see you in Pre-Avanzado.